How Ian Direach got the Blue Falcon. Long ago, a king and queen ruled over the islands of the west, and they had one son, whom they loved dearly. The boy grew up to be tall, strong, and handsome, and he could run and shoot and swim and dive better than any lad his own age in the country. Besides, he knew how to sail about and sing songs on the harp, and during the winter evenings, when everyone was gathered round the huge hall fire shaping bows or weaving cloth, Ian Direach would tell them tales and the deeds of his fathers. So the time slipped by till Ian was almost a man, as they reckoned men in those days, and then his mother, the queen, died. There was a great mourning throughout all the isles, and the boy and his father mourned her bitterly also. But before the new year came, the king had married another wife, and seemed to have forgotten his old one. Only Ian remembered. On a Monday, when the leaves were yellow in the trees of the glen, Ian slung his bow over his shoulder, and filling his quiver with arrows, went on the hill in search of game. But not a bird was to be seen anywhere, till at length the blue falcon flew past him, and raising his bow he took aim at her. His eye was straight and his hand steady, but the falcon's wing was swift, and he only shot a feather from her wing. As the sun was now low over the sea, he put the feather in his game bag and set out homewards. "Have you brought me much game today?" asked his stepmother as he entered the hall. "Naught save this," he answered, handing her the feather of the blue falcon, which she held by the tip and gazed at silently. Then she turned to Ian and said, "I'm setting it on you as trusses and spells, and the fall of the year, that you may always be cold and wet and dirty, and that your shoes may ever have pools in them, till you bring me hither the blue falcon on which that feather grew." "If it is spells you're laying, I can lay them too," answered Ian Direach, "and you shall stand with one foot on the great house and another in the castle till I come back, and your face shall be to the wind, from wherever it shall blow." Then he went away to seek the bird, as his stepmother bade him, and, looking homewards to the hill, he saw the queen standing with one foot on the great house and the other on the castle, and her face turned wherever the tempest should blow. On journeying over hills and through rivers, he reached a wide plain, and never a glimpse did he catch of the falcon. Darker and darker it grew, and the small birds were seeking their nests, and at length Ian Direach could see no more, and he lay down under some bushes, and sleep came to him. And in his dream a soft nose touched him, and a warm body curled up beside him, and a low voice whispered to him, "Fortune is against you, Ian Direach. I have but the cheek and the hoof of a sheep to give you, and with these you must be content." With that, Ian Direach awoke, and beheld Gilliam Ayrton the fox. Between them they kindled a fire, and ate their supper. Then Gilliam Ayrton the fox bade Ian Direach lie down as before, and sleep till morning. And in the morning, when he awoke, Gilliam Ayrton said, "The falcon that you seek is in the keeping of the giant of 5 heads, and with 5 necks and 5 humps. I will show you the way to his house, and counsel you to do his bidding, nimbly and cheerfully, and, above all, to treat his birds kindly, for in this manner he may give you his falcon to feed and care for. And when this happens, wait till the giant is out of his house, and throw a cloth over the falcon, and bear her away with you, only see that not one of her feathers touches anything within the house, or evil will befall you." "I thank you for your counsel," spake Ian Direach, "and I will be careful to follow it." And he took the path to the giant's house. "Who is there?" cried the giant, as someone knocked loudly on the door of his house. "One who seeks to work as a servant," answered Ian Direach. "And what can you do?" asked the giant again. "I can feed birds and tend pigs, I can feed and milk a cow, and also goats and sheep, if you have any of these," replied Ian Direach. "Then enter, for I have a great need of such an one," said the giant. So Ian Direach entered, and tended so well and carefully all the birds and beasts that the giant was better satisfied than he ever had been, and, at length, he thought that he might have been trusted to feed the falcon. Then he went away, and went to the giant's house. And the heart of Ian was glad, and he tended the blue falcon till his feathers shone like the sky, and the giant was well pleased. And one day he said to him, "For long my brothers on the other side of the mountain have besought me to visit them, but never could I go in fear for my falcon. Now I think I can leave her with you for one day. Before nightfall I shall be back again." Scarcely was the giant out of sight next morning when Ian Derrick seized the falcon, and throwing a cloth over her head, hastened with her to the door. But the rays of the sun pierced through the darkness of the cloth, and as they passed the doorpost she gave a spring, and the tip of one of her feathers touched the post, which gave a scream, and brought the giant back in 3 strides. Ian Derrick trembled as he saw him, but the giant only said, "If you wish for my falcon, you must first bring me the white sword of light that is in the house of big women of Direach." "And where do they live?" asked Ian, but the giant answered, "Ah, that is for you to discover." And Ian dared say no more, and hastened down to the waste. There he hoped to meet his friend Gil Martin, the fox, who bade him eat supper and lie down to sleep. And when he had wakened next morning, the fox said to him, "Let us go down to the shore of the sea." And to the shore of the sea they went. And after they had reached the shore, and beheld the sea stretching out before them, and the Isle of Direach in the midst of it, the soul of Ian sank, and he turned to Gilly Meriton, and asked why he had brought him there, for the giant, when he had been sent him, had known full well that without a boat he could never find the big women. "Do not be cast down," answered the fox. "It is quite easy. I will change myself into a boat, and you shall go on board me, and I will carry you over the sea to the 7 big women of Direach. Tell them that you are skilled in writing silver and gold, and in the end they will take you as a servant, and if you are careful to please them they will give you the white sword of light to make bright and shining. But when you seek to steal it, take heed that it touches nothing inside the house, or ill will befall you." So Ian Direach did all the things as the fox had told him, and the 7 big women of the herd took him as a servant, and for 6 weeks he worked so hard for that his 7 mistresses said to each other, "Never has a servant had the skill to make all bright and shining like this one. Let us give him the white sword of light to polish like the rest." Then they brought forth the white sword of light from the iron closet where it hung, and bade him rub it till he could see his face in the shining blade, and he did so. But one day, when the 7 big women were all out of the way, it bethought him that the moment had come for him to carry off the sword, and replacing it on the sheath, he hoisted it on his shoulder. But just as he was passing the door, the tip of the sheath touched it, and the door gave a loud shriek. And the big women heard it, and came back running, and took the sword from him, and said, "If our sword is what you want, you must first bring us the bay colt of the king of Erin." Humbled and ashamed, Ian Derrick left the house, and sat by the side of the sea, and soon Gilly Meriton the fox came to him. "Plainly I see you have taken no heed of my words, Ian Derrick," said the fox. "But eat first, and yet once more I will help you." With these words the heart returned to Ian Derrick, and he gathered sticks and made a fire, and ate with Gilly Meriton the fox, and slept on the sand. At dawn the next morning, Gilly Meriton said to Ian Derrick, "I will change myself into a ship, and I will bear you across the seas to Erin, where the land where dwells the king. And you shall offer yourself as a servant at his table, and tend to his horses, till at length so well content is he that he gives you the bay colt to wash and to brush. But when you run away with her, see that not except the soles of her hoofs touch anything within the palace gates, or it will go ill with you." After he had thus counselled Ian Derrick, the fox changed himself into a ship, and set sail for Erin. And the king of that country gave unto Ian Derrick's hands the care of his horses, and never before did their skins shine so brightly, nor was their pace so swift. And the king was well pleased, and at the end of the month he sent for Ian and said to him, "You have given me faithful service, and now I will entrust you to the most precious thing that my kingdom holds." And when he had spoken, he led Ian Direach to the stable where stood his bay colt. And Ian rubbed her and fed her, and galloped with her all around the country till he could have one wind behind him and catch the other which was in front. "I am going away to hunt," said the king one morning, while he was watching Ian tend the bay colt in her stable. "The deer have come down from the hill, and it is time for me to give them chase." Then he went away, and when he was no longer in sight, Ian Direach led the bay colt out of the stable, and sprang on her back. But as they rode through the gate, which stood between the palace and the outer world, the colt swished her tail against the post, which shrieked loudly. In a moment the king came running up and seized the colt's bridle. "If you want my bay colt, you must first bring me the daughter of the king of the Franks." With slow steps went Ian Direach down to the shore, where Gillimaert and the fox awaited him. "Plainly, I see you have not done as I bid you, nor will you ever do it," spoke Gillimaert. "But I will help you again. For the third time I will change myself into a ship, and we set sail to France." And as he was on the ship, and Gillimaert sailed where he would, he ran himself into a cleft in the rock, high on the land. Then he commanded Ian Direach to go up to the king's palace and say that he had wrecked, and that his ship was made fast in the rock, and that none had saved him but himself only. Ian Direach listened to the words of the fox, and he told the tale so pitiful that the king and queen, and their daughter the princess, all came out to hear it. And when they heard it, naught would be pleased them except to go down to the shore and visit the ship, which by now was floating, as the tide was up. Torn and battered as if she had passed through many dangers, yet music of wondrous sweetness poured from forth within. "Bring hither the boat," cried the princess, "that I may go see for myself the harp that gives forth such music." And a boat was brought, and Ian Direach stepped in to row it to the side of the ship. To the further side he rowed, that none could see, and when he helped the princess on board, he gave a push to the boat, so that she could not get back in it again. The music sounded sweeter, though they always could never see from whence it came, and sought it from one part of the vessel to another. When they at last reached the deck and looked around them, naught of the land could they see, or anything save the rushing waters. The princess stood silent, and her face grew grim. At last she said, "An ill trick you have played on me. What is this that you have done, and whither are we going?" "It is a queen you will be," answered Ian Direach, "for the king of Erin has sent me for you, and in return he will give me a big colt, that I may give to take him to the big 7 women of Direach in exchange for the white sword of light. This I must carry to the giant of the 5 heads, 5 necks, and 5 humps, and in place of it he will bestow upon me the blue falcon, which I have promised my stepmother, so that she may free me from the spell which she has laid upon me." "I would rather be wife to you," answered the princess. By and by the ship sailed into harbor on the coast of Erin, and cast anchor there. Gillimaert the fox bade Eric tell the princess that she must either bide yet a while in a cave amongst the rocks, for they had business on land, and after a while they would return for her. Then they took the boat and rowed up the rocks, and as they touched the land, Gillimaert changed himself into a fair woman, who laughed, and said to Ian Direach, "I will give the king a fine wife." Now the king of Erin had been hunting on the hill, and when he saw the strange ship sailing towards the harbor, he guessed that it might be Ian Direach, and left his hunting and ran down the hill to the stable. Hastily he led the bay colt from the stall, and put the golden saddle on her back, and the silver bridle over her head, and with the colt's bridle in his hand, he hurried to meet the princess. "I brought you the king of France's daughter," said Ian Direach. And the king of Erin looked at the maiden, and was well pleased, not knowing that it was really Gale Martin the fox. And he bowed low, and besought her to do him the honor to enter the palace. And Gillian Martin, as he went in, turned to look back at Ian Derlick and laughed. In the great hall, the king paused and pointed to an iron chest which stood in the corner. "In that chest is a crown that has waited for you for many years," he said, "and at last you have come for it." He stooped down to unlock the box. In an instant, Gillian Martin, the fox, had sprung on his back and gave him such a bite that he fell down unconscious. Quickly the fox took his own shape again and galloped away to the seashore, where Ian Derlick and the princess and the bay colt awaited him. "I will become a ship," cried Gillian Martin, "and you shall go aboard me." And so he did, and Ian Derlick led the bay colt to the ship, and the princess went after them, and they set sail for Direach. The wind was behind them, and very soon they saw the rocks of Direach in front. Then spoke Gillian Martin, the fox. "Let the bay colt and the king's daughter hide in these rocks, and I will change myself into the colt, and go with you to the house of the 7 big women." Joy filled the hearts of the big women when they beheld the bay colt, and led up to the door by Ian Derlick. And the youngest of them fetched the white sword of light, and gave it into the hands of Ian Derlick, who took off the golden saddle and silver bridle, and went down the hill with the sword to place where the princess and the real colt awaited him. "Now we shall have the ride we have long waited for," cried the 7 big women, and they saddled and bridled the colt, and the eldest one got upon the saddle. Then the second sister sat on the back of the first, and the third on the back of the second, and so on until the whole 7. And when they were all seated, the eldest struck her side with the whip, and the colt bounded forward. Over the moors she flew, and round the mountains, and still the big women clung to her and snorted with pleasure. At last she leapt high in the air, and came down upon the moorths of the great hill, where the crag is, and she rested her sore feet on the crag, and threw up her hind legs, and the 7 big women fell over the crag, and were dead when they reached the bottom. And the colt laughed, and became a fox again, and galloped away to the seashore, where Ian Derlick, the princess, the real colt, and the white sword of light were awaiting him. "I will make myself into a ship," said Gillian Martin the fox, "and will carry you and the princess and the bay colt and the white sword of light back to the land." And when the shore was reached, Gillian Martin the fox took back his own shape, and spoke to Ian Derlick in the wise. "Let the princess and the white sword of light and the bay colt remain among the rocks. I will change myself into the likeness of the white sword of light, so that you can bear me to the giant, and instead he will give you the blue falcon." And Ian Derlick did as the fox bade him, and set out for the giant's castle. From afar the giant beheld the blaze of the white sword of light, and his heart rejoiced. And he took the blue falcon, and put it in a basket, and gave it to Ian Derlick, who bore it swiftly away to the place where the princess and the bay colt and the real sword of light were waiting him. So well contented was the giant to possess the sword that he had coveted for so many years, that he began at once to whirl it through the air, to cut and to slash with it. For a little while, Gillian Martin let the giant play with him in this manner. Then he turned to the giant's head, and cut through the 5 necks, so that the 5 heads rolled on the ground. Afterward he went back to Ian Derlick and said to him, "Saddle the colt with the golden saddle, and bridle with the silver bridle. Sling the basket of the falcon over your shoulders, and hold the white sword of light with their back to your nose. Then mount the colt, and let the princess mount behind you, and thus travel to your father's palace. But see that the back of the sword is never used against your nose, else when your stepmother beholds you, she will change you into a dry faggot. If, however, you do as I bid, she will become herself a bundle of sticks." Ian Derlick hearkened with these words to Gillian Martin, and his stepmother fell as a bundle of sticks before him, and he set fire to her, and was free forever from her spells. After that he married the princess, who was the best wife in all the islands of the west. Henceforth he was safe from harm, for he had not only the bay colt, who could leave one wind behind and catch the next, and the blue falcon to bring him game to eat, and the white sword of light to pierce through all his foes. And Ian Derlick knew that all this he owed to Gillian Martin the fox, and he made a compact with him that he might choose the beasts out of his herds whenever hunger seized him, and henceforth no arrow should be let fly at him or any other of his race. But Gillimart and the fox would take no reward for the help he had given Ian Derrick, only his friendship. Thus all things prospered with Ian Derrick until he died.